What's standing between you and your first sale on Shopify? Time, expertise, resources? What if you could multiply all three? Product descriptions? Done. Store insights? Delivered. 2 a.m. customer questions? Handled instantly. Entrepreneurs on Shopify are reaching their first sale faster with AI that works with you. Go to shopify.com/first sale to see how entrepreneurs use AI to grow their businesses faster. That's shopify.com/first sale.
This is Live Bet Sunday on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
It's hour number 3 of Live Bet Sunday right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. We've got a tremendous hour coming up for you as we're going to be in 45 minutes talking a little bit more about the NBA playoffs with Bryan Fonseca. He does a tremendous job over at Action Network taking a look at this great game that we all know and love. By then, we are going to be off and running in terms of Rockets versus the Golden State Warriors game. We're going to be able to recap what we're seeing right now in terms of this Cavaliers versus Heat game, which we're going to be hitting upon that in a second. So we've got a lot that is happening on that front. Also have a little bit of something that's happening on the baseball diamond, as well as the San Diego Padres were up 2-0 against the Houston Astros, but all of a sudden things are getting a little bit more tight. Men on first and second for the Astros. They've already plated 1 run in this inning, and they're looking for more. Bottom of the 5th inning, bases now loaded as there's a walk issued by Dylan Cease, and for Dylan Cease, it always feels like things just sort of unravel on him a little bit. He's got some really good swing and miss stuff, but from time to time, the things just do not necessarily go his way. So we'll be seeing what happens on that front, and we'll keep you guys monitored there. But how about if we do get you guys a little bit of a progress report in terms of Cavaliers versus the Miami Heat? The Heat actually clawed their way back and got down only 7. Now the Cavaliers started to be able to build that lead once again. 102-90, 6:30 remaining, and right now, that live total is a 220.5. Cavaliers back to being a 12.5 point favorite. So, I mean, this is a game that closed at 12.5. We saw the Cleveland Cavaliers at one point get up to about an 18.5, 19.5 point favorite towards back half of the first half, but this has been right around that number just all night long. We have yet to see the live total really get too demonstratively over or under as well, and just a very interesting place to be right now if you're taking a look at this live total. Like, right now, I lean a little bit more to the under. I would like for this to be able to maybe get to more like a 222.5. If you get like a clean possession from the Miami Heat, they're able to knock down a 3 or something like that. That's when I would really be starting to take a look at a total under in this one. But as of right now, I've got no play on this. So let's see what we are able to get in the next few minutes, as currently they're in a commercial break. And I do believe that you just had a run plated by the Houston Astros. Yes, indeed. A sacrifice fly for the Houston Astros that ties things up 2-2. So have men on first and second, 2 outs in the bottom of the 5th inning. So things starting to get a little bit overwhelming out there. I was talking about this a little bit before in terms of that live total being at 6.5 in this game when you were in the top of the 5th inning. Now you've got a live total that, if I'm not mistaken, I think that you're up to a live 7.5 right now. Yes, you are indeed at minus 115 juice both ways. So we'll see what happens on that front. And this is a total that closed at a 7.5. Personally, I would be looking at a little bit more of an under. I took this over pregame, so I've right now got 7.5 over at even money myself in pocket. So I'm currently sweating this one out. No reason to double down for myself, but at the same time, I do think that you got a little bit of value there. And then this one is very interesting. You've got the Washington Nationals and the Colorado Rockies still sitting at 1-0 and going into the 4th inning. This is a live total that zipped down to a 7.5, and this is one that if I didn't play this pregame, I'd be looking at a live over. I still think that it's a really good play right now because I just don't simply want to be doubling down on my position. But you know what? Right now with the Washington Nationals, they've been able to hit Antonio Senzatella, and Senzatella has just given up hits upon hits upon hits here this season. And for the Colorado Rockies, the fact that they had Kyle Freeland only go 2 innings in game number 1, that doubleheader, and this is... I'm not sharing like any sort of like insane secrets here or anything like that. This is not a good Colorado Rockies bullpen, to say the least. Yeah, when you dive into the schlubs in this bullpen, like the Tyler Kinleys of the world and what have you, I think that things can get very, very overwhelming. So I'd be looking at that 7.5 over right now as well. But that said, we've got ourselves a lot of this happening on that front. Also have to give you a little bit of a look at what's happening out there on the ice 4-1. The Maple Leafs currently in the lead on the Ottawa Senators. That's after 2 periods, so you're needing one more goal to be able to push this total over. For the Ottawa Senators, it's just been a case where they have been completely destroyed all throughout. You saw William Nylander along John Tavares be able to get goals in the second period for the Toronto Maple Leafs, so they're in full control of this one. And then if you're taking a look at the nightcap right now with the Vegas Golden Knights, you find them more around about a -220, -230 favorite in terms of that game against the Minnesota Wild. I personally am not necessarily the world's biggest hockey handicapper, which is why it was so great that we got on a pair of great men that do a tremendous job on that front. Kevin Rogers along with our good friend over here at the network, Jonathan Davis, in the previous hour. And I know that Jonathan Davis, he was looking a little bit more at the Vegas Golden Knights in regulation opposition. I do very much agree with this. It is the show Live Bet Sunday right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, and we do have ourselves a lot to be able to take a look at in terms of the betting splits this time of year, because we've got all these sports in action. You've got some playoff hockey, you've got some playoff basketball, obviously the MLB slate. You get 15 games a day every single day, and unlike so many other sources you were able to give you with regards to betting splits, so much of what the broad market is and so much of what moves the lines as well in terms of the big bets. As over here at VSiN, we've got betting splits for both Circa and DraftKings, so that way you're able to see all corners of the market. You're able to see where the money and the bets just really don't align as well, because you're able to get the full handle and you're able to get the just percentage of money on those bets as well. You're able to see just all this with our exclusive betting splits, and you get it as a VSiN Pro subscriber, and you get a really nice summer special with being a VSiN Pro subscriber as well. Just $59 all the way through August 1st. That saves you right around about 50% on the normal price. That's over at vsin.com/subscribe, as it is Live Bet Sunday right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. And for the Cleveland Cavaliers, they're starting to make things a little bit more overwhelming right now, as they're now up by a count of 104-92. You've got 5:20 remaining in this one. Again, trying to be able to extract as much value as humanly possible from this one. This is live total that's out up to a 220.5. And right now with the Cleveland Cavaliers, they do find themselves as 14.5 point live favorites. With regards to that total of a 120.5, I'm tempted to go under here. I do have a little bit of trepidation, because you're sort of walking a high wire act, for a little bit of lack of a better term, because if the Miami Heat are able to make any sort of a run here, then you're probably looking at that live total going over the total. And if you're thinking that the Cleveland Cavaliers are able to make things a little bit more comfortable in general, then you're taking a look at this game, perhaps being able to go under. But that said, this is one where I did take a look at this spot, and if I had to lean anywhere, I would be looking at a little bit more of a live under. And if we can get like one more dead possession or so, I might be willing to pull the trigger. I do want to just have a little bit more, shall we say, security with this one. Oh, we've got a 222.5 that just popped up, and let's see if we can fire in on this one. Looks like I'm only going to be able to get 221.5, but I'm going to take that 221.5 under. We've got ourselves now 111-94, about 4 minutes and change remaining, and before I could even fire it in, we got back to the 222.5, so all the better there. So we are locked in at an under of 222.5, so we will sweat this out for the final 416, and that's exactly what I was looking for, because with the Miami Heat, they have been just playing above their skis all day long in terms of the way that they've been able to shoot from three-point range. Heck, throughout much of this game, they have been shooting 50% from three. This is a team that overall for the season, they should right around about 36, 37% from three-point range. I recognize that the Cleveland Cavaliers aren't necessarily that number one team in all of basketball in terms of their three-point shooting defense, but at the same time as well, I do think that this is a game that is going to be going into the abyss a little bit more, and being able to find these totals late is something that you do want to be doing. I do this a lot more in terms of college basketball, but when you get into college basketball and you find those games where a team is up like 6 points with a minute remaining, just live betting the over is your best friend, because you know that you're going to be getting those fouls. You know that the game is going to be getting extended. Things are going to get a little bit more harebrained in general. And when it comes to a situation like this, in terms of Cavaliers versus the Miami Heat, you know that if the Cavaliers continue to have this lead, which currently they're up 111-96, you've got 3:39 remaining, so you've got yourself a 15-point lead. That final minute or so of the game, they're just going to essentially be dribbling it out. There's not going to be like any sort of late game fouling or anything like that. Pretty much what I'm banking on right now is that the Miami Heat do not go on a run, that they don't put together like some sort of a magical, shall we say, 3-point barrage or anything like that. And I feel like the Miami Heat, just all night long, they played above their skis, and yet at the same time, here they are with a chance to not cover this game, because this is a closing line of a minus 12.5. Right now they're down 15 points, despite how well they've shot from 3-point, despite the fact that Bam Adebayo has been able to give you a relatively solid game as well. You've gotten 24 points out of him. Davion Mitchell has come off the bench. He's been able to give you 18 as well. This is a Miami Heat team that they just haven't been able to get a lot out of their backcourt, especially with Khalil Ware giving you 20 minutes and 2 points. You need a little bit more out of him, in my opinion. The Cavaliers have done a nice job of being able to control things on the glass. Do like what I'm seeing here from Cleveland. So I was willing to dive in on that live total under. Personally, I was able to grab a 222.5. So we were trying to dive in as quickly as seemingly possible. And you're going to notice that when you do try to dive in on some of these numbers, they're going to move around a little bit on you. But that said, feeling pretty good about that. We will see what we get. 3:39 remaining. Currently, that is 111-96, and hopefully we can find some opportunities when it comes to that Warriors versus Rockets game. That's one that's going to be tipping off in about 20 or so minutes. The way that I'm approaching this one is I'm just not much of a pregame guy. When it comes to betting on the NBA, I do think that your best value, it does very much come in-game, and I'm open to be able to get just a little bit more value on the Warriors, whether that be a spread bet, whether that be a money line bet. That's going to be a little bit more determined based on what I see in the first half and beyond of that game. Right now, in a lot of places, you're finding the Rockets as a 1 to 1.5 point favorite, and if you're looking at the the Warriors right now, that money line is going to be hovering anywhere between about a minus 105 to a plus 105. So do shop around accordingly there, and I always think that it's very important to be able to get the best of the number, and that includes the live bets that you place as well. It's not just with regards to pregame bets, but with regards to being able to find something live. You're going to notice that if you've got different books within the state, the algorithm is going to be a little bit different based on the closing number, and there are books that just in general they do operate just a skoge differently. So let's say that maybe you're getting a 222.5 live total right now in terms of Cleveland Cavaliers versus Miami Heat game. If you're utilizing a different book, that might be 221.5, that might be 223.5. So you always want to be able to give yourself the best options to be able to get yourself the best of the number, and in a lot of cases save yourself a little bit of juice as well. And something else that we want to be doing is taking a little bit of a look at baseball, because we do have ourselves a fun one between the Padres and the Houston Astros. Currently that game is tied up 2-2. You're in the 6th inning there, so we'll be taking a look there, and we'll turn it forward to a little bit more of those Monday games as well. That's up next right here on Live Bet Sunday on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
This is Live Bet Sunday on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Back here on Live Bet Sunday on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. We've got a lot of fun that's happening right now. A little bit of everything. We've got some live NBA. We've got some live baseball. We've got some live hockey, as well as the Ottawa Senators put a goal up on the board, and the Maple Leafs, they just scored again. It is now 5-2. The Maple Leafs are in the lead over the Ottawa Senators. So if you were taking a look at some of those alternate overs, you're starting to be able to get there on those as well. 5-2. Early part of the third period there, as we just saw a barrage of goals to start the third period in this one, as going into the being able to put the goal in there. Ridley Gregg for Ottawa, he was able to score early on in the third period, and we need to see who was able to get that goal for the Toronto Maple Leafs just here a second ago. But you just saw 2 goals scored in the last 60 seconds of gameplay there. So 5-2, the Toronto Maple Leafs in the lead over the Ottawa Senators. So my goodness, you are seeing yourselves a just expose of scoring, to say the least. And right now with the Maple Leafs, they are about $1 billion to be able to win this game outright on the money line. So they are in full control in this one. Looks like they're going to be able to take game one. The question is, how big is that differential going to be? And for the Cleveland Cavaliers, they're looking to be able to cover this game right now against the Miami Heat. 3:05 remaining. There's one free throw coming for the Miami Heat, and right now for the Miami Heat, they close as 12.5 point underdogs. Gonna look to try to claw their way back a little bit, and for the Miami Heat, they have been just not able to get a lot going on the inside. It's really been their outside shooting that has been the only reason why they've been able to hold in this game, as right now for the Miami Heat, 13 of 28 from three-point range. Meanwhile, for the Cleveland Cavaliers, a rock solid 17 of 40 from three-point range. So both teams' efficiency has been great, and Ty Jerome has really been the reason why the Cleveland Cavaliers have been able to separate here in the fourth quarter. He obviously goes way over his player prop, as he's been able to put up 28 points in this one, 15 points thus far in the fourth quarter, and you still have 3:05 remaining in the fourth quarter. So this has been very intriguing to see, to say the least. Right now, I am sweating out the live under that I took in the previous segment of a 222.5. So we shall see if we're able to get there. As right now we've got up on the board, doing my math, 112.5, and you've got 248 remaining. So we are hoping that we're able to get this one in, and I do like to be able to play a lot of these late totals because you are able to find just the gameplay being able to slow down, speed up in general. Are you going to be able to get some late game fouling? Are you not going to be? Are the benches going to clear? Because if the Miami Heat, if they have a few dead possessions here, they're probably going to just let go of the rope. They're probably going to put in some of the reserves for the final 90 or so seconds of the game. Things start to slow down from there. So that is very much the hope on this one. So we shall see what happens there. 116-98, 242 remaining in this one. So we've got ourselves a nice little sweat that is going on there. And we do have ourselves some sweats that are going down in the ball diamond, as well as for the Colorado Rockies. They've been able to explode here on Mr. Brad Lord and company. They're now up 2-1 in the fifth inning against the Washington Nationals. I was alerting you guys in the last segment that total of 7.5. It felt like it got a little bit too low. Now your live total is back up to a 9.5 with the Colorado Rockies being able to get you a few runs. I believe that they scored those in the fourth inning as Mickey Moniak was able to have an RBI triple to be able to spearhead things. Now Antonio Senzatella, he's back out for the fifth inning, and the Nationals do have a man on second base with one out in the fifth inning, and for Antonio Senzatella, they're going to need him to give a lot of length if you're the Colorado Rockies, especially with Kyle Freeland going only 2 innings in that game number 1 of the doubleheader. So right now they're in a little bit of a danger zone sort of scenario. So we shall see what is going to be happening there. And then in terms of the Houston Astros and the San Diego Padres, still tied up 2-2. Bottom of the sixth inning coming up. The Padres were able to get a man or two on base in the sixth inning, unable to capitalize as Framber Valdez has been able to lend some good length of his own. Currently at 87 pitches. Have to think that he's probably going to be good enough to be able to go back out for the seventh inning if at all needed. But you now have Dylan Cease, who's out of the game for the San Diego Padres. Alec Jacob is currently pitching in the sixth inning. Not necessarily the world's worst thing if you're riding out a Padres money line ticket. And I personally took a shot on the Padres on the money line, and I'm in on the over. And for the Padres, you do have a very deep bullpen with this team. They did have to use up a few pieces yesterday, but it's not like they had to just use up absolutely everyone for this bullpen. So you should have a lot of your, shall we say, more trustworthy guys for the San Diego Padres able to go, as they used up Jeremiah Estrada along with Adrian Morejon yesterday. So you've got your likes of a Robert Suarez, who's going to be available in the bullpen for you. If you need Yuki Matsui, guys like this, they're able to come in and hold down the fort. And this has been a Padres team that has been one of the better bullpens out there in all of baseball. Jason Adams is another guy they're able to look at as well. So I do feel like things are in relatively good shape there. And if you're taking a look at what that live line is, the live total is currently 7.5, but you're getting plus 130 if you're taking a look at the live over. Meanwhile, for the Houston Astros, live on the money line, they're minus 160 as they just got a man on base. I believe that would be Jose Altuve that just got it. Might be mistaken there, but you were able to get a live hit there. So we're going to be taking a look at what we get on that front right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. And what else we're going to be taking a look at is what we're all getting in terms of the action out there on the diamond for Monday, as well as we're going to start turning it forward just a little bit more because we only have a few games remaining here in the night slate. And right now the final 2 games of the baseball slate here for this Sunday are going down. And how about if we take a look at this game, because we're starting to see this one pop onto the board. This is one that I was seeing a little bit more off the board a bit earlier on, but now we are starting to get numbers, shall we say, fortified in terms of this game. And we do have ourselves the Milwaukee Brewers facing up against the San Francisco Giants. As a matter of fact, while I was in the break, because I do write-ups every single day for the VSiN website in terms of the baseball front, much like I do for college basketball, those just got posted. So they are all fresh. If you're listening right now, you're able to go to VSiN.com. You're able to see what I've all got written up. But I think that this is going to be a fun one between the Brewers and the San Francisco Giants, with it being Quinn Pricer going for Milwaukee and Robbie Ray saying hip hip hooray to another start for the Giants. Right now, the Giants are anywhere between a minus 140 to a minus 148. The total is 8. And what I wrote up here for the website is the under in this spot, as I did set my total more around a 7.5-ish. So I do feel like with this going to a flat 8, you do have some good value there, especially with the ballpark factors that you've got out there in San Francisco for San Francisco. It is a ballpark in which it's very hard to be able to rip it out of, and the Giants have actually been one of your better over teams in all of baseball. We saw things get very overwhelming here today in that game against the LA Angels. They were up 4-1. The Giants were in the bottom of the ninth inning, and they gave up 4 runs, so that was not great. And for the Milwaukee Brewers, I think that's a little bit misleading of what we've seen out of the bullpen thus far this season, because their numbers are still very much warped from what we saw in that series against the New York Yankees, where Nestor Cortez just get completely rocked in the first 2 innings. He had spot starters coming in and trying to give you long relief for the team and everything like that. That's a big reason why they're currently 26th in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA at a 5.14. Keep in mind, last year they actually led the National League in terms of bullpen ERA, and you've got a lot of these guys back. Yoel Payams, Elvis Peguero, guys like this, and Quinn Pricer is going to be getting the start here for the Milwaukee Brewers. He just looks like a new man in general. This guy was able to give this team 2 relatively good starts in his first 2 in a Brewers uniform, 10 innings, giving up 1 run. I just felt like he was called up to the big league level a little bit too soon with the Pittsburgh Pirates a few seasons ago. He didn't belong at the MLB level at the time. Now he certainly does belong. They've worked on his pitch mix a little bit more. He's throwing a little bit more gas, and for Robbie Ray, it's been more like Robbie Boo for this team with regards to the command, as he's been giving the team right around about 7 walks per 9 innings, but he's keeping things out in front of him, and you know that he's going to be able to do a great job in terms of his strikeout numbers as well throughout his career, about 11 strikeouts per 9 innings. So I do think that this is a very interesting scenario with the Giants lineup that has been very good with Jung-Ho Lee coming on over from the KBO, guy that's able to hit for north of a 300. He's able to give you north of a 400 on base as well. So we'll put a little bit more of a bow on this in a second. I'm going to be in on the Giants if I'm able to get right around about a minus 140 or less is what I'm taking a look at. I've set my official money line at a minus 142, where I sit here at circa. I believe that we've got that minus 140, and we indeed do. So I'm going to be watching this a little bit more because I'd like to be able to get a little bit more value. But if I had to play this right now, I will be looking at that money line, and in terms of write-up that I did, I'm going to be in on the under. I really intrigued because that live under did come through. It was not looking great because the game was, I believe, 121 to 100 with about 90 seconds remaining, and then the game just died. This is why I do take a look at a lot of these NBA totals late in the fourth quarter, because the way that the game is dictated with the way that the differentials are, that's how you're able to extract value from these. If this were to be a 6-point game, a 7-point game with a minute remaining, that's typically when you take a look at the over. You know that the team that is down 6 to 7 points, they're going to give it one last-ditch effort. Even in the NBA, when you're down 6 points, you're typically going to give a foul or two. You see that a lot more in college basketball, obviously, but you're still going to be able to get a team's good effort. And, hey, if a team is down 6 to 7 points, they drain a 3, that puts it down to 4 with about 40 seconds remaining, then you're really looking to extend the game. So that's something that I take a look at. This game was starting to get a little bit out of hand. I thought that the Cleveland Cavaliers were going to be able to get the job done, cover this game. They were able to separate a little bit late, and we did see that Miami Heat 3-point shooting start to regress just a little bit more towards the end of the game as well. The Miami Heat throughout much of this game were shooting about 50% from 3-point range, and they lose this game by 21 points despite the fact that they go 13 of 31 from 3. I don't know about you guys, but when I take a look at that, I think that that's just not good in terms of the landscape of the series for the Miami Heat. If they go 13 of 31 from 3 and they lose by 21 points, what happens when they don't shoot as good from 3-point range? They're overall for the season about a 37% 3-point shooter. So I think that there are some serious red flags here for the Miami Heat going into Game 2 of the Cleveland Cavaliers. But we've got the green light in terms of taking a look at the next game between the Warriors and the Rockets, and we'll do so next right here on Live Bet Sunday on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
This is Live Bet Sunday on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
We're back here on Live Bet Sunday on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Greg Hoops Peterson having you covered all the way through 8 o'clock p.m. Pacific time, 11 o'clock p.m. Eastern, as we do have to update you guys on what's happening out there in the great state of Texas, as Fernando Tatis Jr. goes yard for the Padres. That is home run number 8 of the campaign. He goes deep off of Taylor Scott, who's been having himself a not so great season for the Houston Astros, to say the least. 3-2 now your lead for the San Diego Padres. And been very intriguing what we've seen in this game because you've seen a lot of contact made in general. You got 15 total hits between these two teams and just haven't really been able to get a lot of men in scoring position. It's been a lot of like singles action, and both of these pitchers that we saw in the starting role for Framber Valdez along Dylan Cease doing a pretty good solid job of being able to bend but don't break here. So we'll see what is going to be happening in the battle of the bullpens as for the San Diego Padres, Alec Jacob through that previous inning for them have to figure that they're going to go to someone a little bit different here for the 7th inning. So we'll keep you guys abreast of what's happening there. And in terms of the NBA front, we did see the game go final between the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Miami Heat. Fortunately, the live under that I gave out of under 222.5. Just barely able to get there. Not going to call that the world's greatest call, but you know what? Whether you cash it by 1.5 points or 100.5 points, it all cashes the same. 121 to 100. The Cleveland Cavaliers, they get the win. They get the cover for the Miami Heat. They lose this game despite shooting 13 of 31 from 3. And again, I think that this is going to be a short series for the Miami Heat. They're going to hope to not get gentlemen swept or anything like that, but I don't really have a lot of hope for them in this one. I think that the Cleveland Cavaliers, they're going to be able to do what they've done all throughout the regular season, just completely roll through the Eastern Conference up until perhaps a series with the Boston Celtics, who they, by the way, were able to win and cover against the Orlando Magic by a count of 103 to 86. So we do have a lot that's happening on that front, and also happening on the front of the guest watch for the next few minutes. We're going to be taking a look at things in terms of the Golden State Warriors versus Houston Rockets game with Bryan Fonseca. He does a tremendous job over at Action Network. He's going to be joining me in a few minutes. And again, when it comes to what we're going to be able to get here in this game between the Warriors and the Houston Rockets, this is one where I'm going to be betting this one live personally, and I'm just going to look to extract the value that I can out of the Golden State Warriors. Now, you go into with a plan, and if you just see something that you don't like, you don't need to necessarily hold yourself to it. Like, this isn't a case where you need to be pot committed to, oh, I have to bet the Golden State Warriors no matter what. Like, if I see the Golden State Warriors look like they are dealing with the runs or something like that, I don't want to be betting on them. It's like, looks like these guys have absolutely no interest whatsoever in game number 1. It looks like they don't have it. You could always abandon ship on your plan, and sometimes that's the appropriate approach to be able to take. If something's not there, something's not there. But I do think that with the Warriors, just the way that throughout the entire Steve Kerr and Stephen Curry era, they always seem to win at least one road game on the road in a series. I do think that this could be a relatively solid spot for them with the Houston Rockets. Very young team, and you know that they're going to be prepared because Ime Udoka, he's one of the better coaches out there in the NBA. The Rockets have been rock solid with regards to their defense, but this is a Warriors team that is very veteran-laden. They've been able to do a tremendous job of running their sets ever since they were able to get Jimmy Butler, so I do think that there's a lot to be taking a look at on that front, and we'll talk about it a little bit more with Bryan here in a few minutes. And something else that we do have to talk about is the fact that ProfitX is doing a tremendous job of making sure that you've got the best odds in all of baseball. ProfitX is a peer-to-peer sports exchange system that is available in 40 plus states. It's the first of its kind in the United States, and you're able to make your sports picks against other groups of fans, and you can even sometimes request your own odds, and you're able to do this rather than betting against the normal sports books. And by doing this, you're able to save about 10 to 20% on the odds, and you're able to get the best odds in your favor. Download ProfitX today, utilize the promo code VSIN, and you're able to earn up to $200 in profit bets cash over your first month. That's over at ProfitX. Download the app, utilize the promo code of VSIN, as it is Live Bet Sunday right here on VSIN, the Sports Betting Network. And how about if we do talk a little bit more baseball, because we've got a few minutes remaining up until we get that Rockets game that is going to be getting going. And by the way, if you have not been watching the action that we've been seeing out there on the ice, man, it has been a fun one between the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Ottawa Senators. Right now with the Senators, they are trailing by a count of 5-2. Got about 6 or so minutes remaining in the third period in this one. Oh, and there's another Toronto Maple Leafs goal. It is out 6-2. The Maple Leafs, they just scored again. It has been absolutely insane what we've been able to see. Matthew Kynes, he's able to find the back of the net, and you've now had 6 different Maple Leafs score in this one. I believe that the early one that I hadn't hit upon before, Morgan Riley, he was able to find the biscuit. He was able to find the back of the net, so he was able to help you out. And if you took a bunch of goal scorers for the Toronto Maple Leafs in this game, you're probably making a lot of money right now because, man, it's 6-2 with 6 different Maple Leafs being able to find the back of the net. So not going the way of the Ottawa Senators right now. 6 minutes and change remaining. Now, we do know, though, with the Maple Leafs, they have had their experiences of being able to get up in series and not being able to close, to say the least. So that's something that you do want to be mindful of. But right now it is complete and utter domination here in game number 1, and hopefully we can dominate the betting board as well with regards to Major League Baseball. How about if we do take a look at a few games that we're going to be getting on the Monday card? And there were a lot of places that hadn't put up an initial line for the Padres game, and that's something that you do want to be looking for. I know that Scott Seidenberg typically does this show, and Scott does an absolutely tremendous job, by the way. You were able to catch him a little bit earlier on in the day. He pulled the daily double with myself, as I know that he was doing the Live Bet Saturday show, came back for the morning line on Sunday. So, hardworking man. Absolutely love all that he provides, and was a guest on the Baseball Betting Show about a week or so ago as well. That's the podcast that I do here at VSiN, but I know that one of the systems that he tracks is taking a look at these teams coming off on Sunday Night Baseball, and it's always something that I take a look at as well. It feels like it's been a little bit less of a fade for these teams coming off of Sunday Night Baseball, playing on Monday ever since they pushed the start time back to more of 4 o'clock p.m. Pacific instead of 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific. That's Eastern time, 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock instead of 8 o'clock. But that said, this is going to be one of those rare cases where I take a look at the team that's playing on Sunday Night Baseball, and I'm going to be willing to back them on Monday because I just don't have any belief in the pitcher on the other side that they're going to be facing. This is the Padres on the road against the Detroit Tigers with Kadir Montero going for the Detroit Tigers, and Randy Vasquez is on the bump for the Padres. Right now, that total is 8.5, and with Detroit, they're between a minus 130 to minus 135 favorite. Between plus 110 to a plus 120 is that number on the Padres. Now, I recognize that Randy Vasquez is not as good as his sub-2 ERA would indicate. He's getting, I'm not even kidding here, 3.5 strikeouts to 6 walks per 9 innings, and he's got a sub-2 ERA. That just should not be happening. That is an outlier of all outliers, and I do think that that's going to come back to nip him in the bud. But that said, what has Kadir Montero done to be a minus 130 favorite against one of the hottest teams in all of baseball? Like with Kadir Montero last year, he had a north of 4.75 ERA. He was giving up 1.7 home runs per 9 innings. Doesn't give you a lot of swings and misses. Gives you north of 3 plus walks per 9 innings. And then in his first start against the Milwaukee Brewers, it's not like we saw a new Kadir Montero. He went 5 innings, gave up 5 runs and 3 home runs. Like, I don't know what about that performance would make you think, oh, now Kadir Montero has been able to find it and he is going to be great this year. Because I do not see it. Now, what is great about the Detroit Tigers is that the offense is much better this year. Even something like a Dylan Dingler, which that's a great name, by the way. He's been able to step up at the catcher spot for the team. Spencer Torkelson is starting to give you some power, and he does a really good job with his batter eye at the plate as well. North of a 375 on base. I like what I've seen out of Riley Green. He's been able to do a nice job of being able to give you a little bit of power, and on the flip side for the San Diego Padres, you are dealing with that injury to Jackson Merrill, but you've got Fernando Tatis Jr. just 1 yard a few minutes ago to be able to put the Padres in the lead by a count of 3-2. You've got Manny Machado. You've got all these guys who are able to do a solid job, move the line. Now, they have been dealing with the injury to Jake Cronenworth, but I've never been necessarily the world's biggest Jake Cronenworth stan myself, so I don't think that that's going to be too much of a big deal. And for the San Diego Padres, yeah, they might use a few guys in the bullpen that might be a little bit, shall we say, unfortunate, but they actually saved a lot of their better bullpen pieces, guys like Jason Adam, Robert Suarez, guys like this. They did not pitch yesterday, so even if they do have to pitch tonight, you could conceivably, if they pitch like 15 or fewer pitches, might be able to have them come back for a little bit of a double duty in back-to-back days. I think that that's something that you do want to be very mindful of as well. And for the Detroit Tigers, I do think that for Kadir Montero, going to be a little bit of a rough go of it for him. Now, I do like this total under. I think that Randy Vasquez, the biggest thing with him is being able to mitigate hard contact. That's why he's been pretty rock solid here with the San Diego Padres. And out there in Detroit, it's not necessarily too warm this time of year in the latter part of April. Just in general, you've got a ballpark out there in Detroit that plays a little bit more to pitchers than anything else. So I did set my total to where I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the under, and I'm going to be willing to take that money line of the San Diego Padres. As a matter of fact, I felt like they should have been the favorite, so being able to get them as an underdog, I am liking that as well. And we are now off and running for the Rockets and the Golden State Warriors. We're about 90 seconds in and not necessarily a ton of excitement yet. The Rockets, they just get a bucket, so now they're up by a count of 4-0. So relatively good start for the Rockets. Not going to quite dive in on the money line quite yet of the Golden State Warriors. I want to try to be able to extract a little bit more value, but if the Rockets continue what they're doing here in the early part of this game, I do think that there's might be a little bit of value. As a matter of fact, we are just about 2.5 minutes into this game. That Warriors money line that I was looking at a plus 105 all the way up to a plus 130 already. We'll see where this is able to just go to moving forward, and we're going to be talking about that as well with Bryan Fonseca. He does a tremendous job over at Action Network. Take a look at this great game of the NBA, and we're going to be chatting Warriors versus Rockets with them on the flip side right here on VSiN Live Bet Sunday on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. We are back here on Live Bet Sunday on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. I was alluding to it really for the last 24 hours. I was trying to be able to extract a little bit of value in terms of this money line of the Golden State Warriors. Right now, live, we're finding them anywhere between about plus 165. I'm seeing a few plus 155s in the market. This is where I'm going to take my stand. I saw very briefly a plus 175 out there. Wasn't able to get in until it had ticked back down to a plus 165, but I'm going to take my stand here. This is what I'm talking about, even just early on during a game. Instead of getting like even money plus 105, I now have a plus 165 on the Golden State Warriors, as I do believe that they're going to get the job done. And a man that gets the job done over at Action Network, that'd be Bryan Fonseca. He does a tremendous job taking a look at the NBA and so much more. He's joining me right here on the Progressive Guest Line. And Bryan, it's great to get you aboard. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
I appreciate you. And Bryan, with regards to this game that just got started between the Rockets and the Golden State Warriors, how are you taking a look at both this individual game and the series as a whole? Because out of all the series that we've got here in the NBA playoffs, it feels like this is really the marquee one and one of the most evenly matched one that we're going to be having in this first round.
Yeah, it's just a matter of like how these teams match up fascinates me, because I do wonder about, and I'm actually worried about on Golden State's behalf, as somebody who probably leans towards Golden State winning the series. Houston has a lot of answers for them defensively, as we saw in one encounter where Amen Thompson basically shut down Stephen Curry. And they have other guys that they can throw at, both Steph and Jimmy Butler. And what concerns me is how is Golden State, which they're struggling with already, how are they going to generate offense beyond just Jimmy Butler and Stephen Curry? To this point, Stephen Curry is just missing. He's 0 for 3 from 3 in this game so far. But I have a lot of questions as it pertains to how they're going to find their offense beyond just those two. And then on the flip side with Houston, it's a matter of kind of the same thing, but more so in clutch situations, because their fourth quarter offense has not been great. Their half court offense has not been great. And then you have Fred VanVleet, Jalen Green trying to create down the stretch, and obviously Alperen Sengun, who I think is their best offensive, at least interior threat. And there's questions there about how that's going to go just sort of late in games, and this is why a lot of people are just leaning on the experience. So you can really talk me into anything as it relates to this series. I probably wouldn't be surprised at any outcome here.
Yeah, but I think that it is so interesting that you bring that up, and I think that this is the ultimate series for it. Taking a look at the experience factor versus taking a look at just the team's overall talent level, because we've got a lot of these, like the OKC Thunder. They haven't necessarily been super duper deep in the playoffs, but they just completely ran the West this season. You've got a Golden State Warriors team that they're the 7th seed, but they've got all the experience in the world. As we know with the Lakers, they aren't necessarily one of those top 2 seeds, but they're a team that has all the experience in the world as well. How do you take a look at experience versus just the overall talent with regards to these series? Because I think that this is going to be a real test of it the entirety of this postseason.
It is, and you have examples pointing in both directions about how this can go. Like, there are historic examples of when Oklahoma City took out the Lakers, when Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook and James Harden were really young, and it was like, oh, okay, I guess the youth is here. Then you have other examples of it being, hey, not yet, where the Spurs would run through some of these younger teams and just be able to be successful in the playoffs. And with Golden State, I don't think they're good enough to the point where, hey, yeah, their experience will just be enough against a team who, they deserve some respect. Houston's great defensively, and that's really the key piece of it. I would feel much better about Golden State if you told me Houston was a mostly offensive team that doesn't have a lot of answers defensively, but they have a lot of answers defensively. Ime Udoka's a really good coach, and they can play 9-10 deep if they want to. I'm not saying that they should in the playoffs per se, but that's the concern here. And Golden State has to figure out different creative ways to get their offense going. And the shelving of Jonathan Kuminga is also a curious one because this does feel like a series where he would be useful, but it doesn't look like Steve Kerr is going to go there.
Yep, it is going to be interesting to see what we get out of the Warriors moving forward as Bryan Fonseca, he does a tremendous job over at Action Network. He is joining me right here on Live Bet Sunday on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, and we do have a lot to be able to dive in on with regards to these playoffs. And by the way, for the Warriors, now 13-10 is what they trail midway through the first quarter. So we'll see what's happening on that front. But we've seen a few beatdowns that have been happening in the postseason thus far. None bigger than the OKC Thunder absolutely taking it to the Memphis Grizzlies. And we're right now on the topic of the Western Conference with it being the Rockets and the Warriors going down right now. But just what did you see from the Thunder today? And do you think that with regards to the OKC Thunder, because I know that everyone's been talking about them being the best team in the West, but not necessarily having a lot of experience. Do you think that this is going to be a team that's going to be really tested by any of these teams out West? Because I just look at the Thunder, and even though the experience is not there, this is a team that just has completely run this conference all season long, and they made a very demonstrative statement here on Easter Sunday.
Yeah, I'd agree with that because I wonder, given that the Lakers didn't look, I mean, they didn't have an encouraging performance against the Minnesota Timberwolves. You have this series going on right now in the Western Conference. And, I just got done saying that Houston, while they're good, like there are questions about how they're going to handle this if games are tight in the fourth quarter, even though their defense is really, really skilled. And Oklahoma City just feels like the best balance of both worlds, leaps and shoulders above everybody else in the Western Conference, where, the Lakers, I have questions about them defensively. I have questions about Houston offensively. Denver, there's a togetherness question, but also the defense and their depth have really suffered this year. If the Clippers get there, how healthy is Kawhi going to be? We've seen James Harden in the playoffs. Like, there are just more reasons to dock the competition going down to Golden State, for example, where I have questions about their depth and overall their just manufacturing of offense beyond their two-star players, especially if one of them doesn't have it going. And that's going to happen at times in the playoffs. OKC just has great balance. They can go 10 deep if they feel like it. They have a lot of different answers, can play you a lot of different ways. They can go big, they can go small, they can create, they can spray out and shoot threes. And the three-point shooting is what I think people are going to be harping on because in these performances where they've come up short, like in the play-in final, for example, and more memorably last season against the Dallas Mavericks, they missed a lot of open three-point shots that Dallas was daring them to take, and they struggled to sort of get some of the looks that they were getting in the regular season. So is that an experience they can learn from is my question, but I think if they're just playing to their capabilities, yeah, they should be able to take care of business in the Western Conference, which I think is a good Western Conference, but Oklahoma City is just that talented right now.
Yep, I'm right there with you. I love what I'm seeing out of OKC. And in terms of the Eastern Conference, I think that it's going to be very difficult for anyone to be able to knock off the main two teams before they meet up in the finals. And the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Boston Celtics both went at it here on Sunday. Both were able to get a win and both were able to get a cover. Just how do you take a look at these two teams right now? Because I thought that even though for the Cleveland Cavaliers, things got a little bit close in the fourth quarter against Miami Heat. Really loved what I saw there. And for the Boston Celtics, I thought that it was very good that the defense really stepped up in a big way for them against Orlando here on Sunday.
Sort of the same thing from the standpoint of with Orlando, they're a worse version of the Rockets where their defense is great and they're missing Jalen Suggs, who is a key component. They've been missing him for a long time now, but if Jalen Suggs was in the series, I think that series would be much more interesting, but they just can't really get anything going offensively beyond Paolo Banchero and obviously Franz Wagner. It's a big-time struggle with Orlando, so Boston's able to pull away there. I think that series is going to be similar where, Boston is kind of the East Coast equivalent in some ways to OKC. They're not like a style-for-style, like straight-up matchup, but they're going to be too talented for their first-round opponent. And then when you look at the Cleveland-Miami series, I thought this was the game to get for Miami. Like coming into this since 2020, Eric Spoelstra was like 9-4 in game ones or something along those lines. And a lot of times they're underdogs in these games and they come through, but they don't have Jimmy Butler, so it's hard to do when it's Tyler Hero being the head of the snake as opposed to Jimmy Butler. Bam Adebayo, I thought, played a really good game, but you see the other, and Davion Mitchell as well, but you see the other guys there, it just wasn't sustainable. And the Heat famously, very poor fourth quarter team, one of the worst fourth quarter teams in the NBA. So I felt like as they got closer in the third and had a decent third quarter, that Cleveland was going to pull away. And Cleveland's yet another team
that can go deeper into their rotation, that can save minutes for some of their star players, can sit guys for a little bit, and then a Ty Jerome could come in and pick up where Donovan Mitchell left off, for example. So I think the top seeds are very dangerous, and I think with Cleveland, with Boston, with Oklahoma City in particular, I'm not sure how much they're actually going to be tested in round one with respect to their competition.
Yep, I'm in agreement with you. I feel like we've got a few good series, but those top seeds, I think that they're going to be able to get the job done, just like you did, Bryan. You do a tremendous job over at Action Network, and really do appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Anytime.
Great to be able to get Bryan aboard, talk a little NBA, and we'll take a look at this Rockets versus Warriors game on the flip side, but we do want to be giving you guys the sharp plays. And the sharp plays, that's where real bettors go to be able to get ahead. And what is just happening in the betting world, you oftentimes get a lot of noise, you get a lot of copying picks, recycling the same value plays. They're not sharp, they're just parrots, and the sharp plays, they're the source that they are echoing. Since 2011, it's been a lock with them being able to get the best information from the real pros that are actually betting the elite groups, the sharp money, and all the kinds of value that is able to move these markets. When the sharp plays jumps on its side, the line reacts every single time. Sign up for free betting reports, real-time alerts, and next level intel via email. You are able to get the sharp plays information all over at thesharpplays.com. Respected, watch, and fierce. That is sharpplays.com. And how about if we do dive in on that Rockets versus Warriors series next, right here on Live Bet Sunday on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.